And joining me in studio to unpack further on this call is Mr. Tshepang Mokgatla, who is the Johannesburg Social Movement spokesperson. Also on the phone line joining us is SN Denisa, the Josie Bread corporate owner, and also live in studio is ANN7 political resident analyst, Mr. Sfiso Mahlangu. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us right here on ANN7. Now, just to first get the first reaction from Mr. Mokgatla, to be correct. The movement has come out calling on the ouster of the Johannesburg mayor, Mr. Herman Mashaba. And I mean, Mr. Herman Mashaba came into office vowing to drive the Johannesburg economy, to create jobs. What has been the reason behind this motive?
The major reason, let me just greet the viewers of ANN7. The major reason that called for us to get to this point is that we have a mayor now currently who is not consulting with the people of Johannesburg when he makes decisions, who goes on media platforms, makes statements, but is actually not engaging with the people on the ground. I mean, for the past 5 months, there's been several programs being cut off, starting with the Wi-Fi program. We had a petition that was submitted to his office. He's never responded to it, although 70% of the Wi-Fi got back on. And post that, you know, the participants of the CWP program were given termination letters that say that the program is ceasing to exist, and they had a march to council. No response was given. Just now, recently, termination letters were given to the Josie Bread cooperative owners, all 50 of them. And with the Josie Bread program, there are bakeries that are already up and running. There are bakeries that are supposed to be that are already built with equipment and everything that was supposed to be handed over, and there are bakeries that are also not built yet. But you must remember that the city has a contractual agreement with these people, and the handover has not been done. And the people were sent termination letters, and the frustration that is caused by Mashaba is actually creating a lot of uncertainty for the people of Greater Johannesburg. Because we must remember why on that program of Josie Bread, why the bread was created, why the cooperatives were launched. Firstly, you must remember that most of the bread that we are eating now in the market from the big cartels in the bread industry, it's unhealthy, because most of the flours that they have is your salt and sugar-based flours, but the product that these bakeries are coming with is based on what we call a mango flour, which is going to be ultimately locally produced. So the biggest problem is that you must remember a few years ago, the bread cartels were found guilty of colluding and escalating the price of bread. So the reason why this program was created was to make sure that it interrupts all these cartels and makes the people of Joburg actually get affordable bread. And that's not the only program. The other crisis that was created is the crisis of the Josie at Work program. I mean, the cutting off of the Josie at Work program is putting almost 8,000 jobs at risk with the program, 112 cooperatives being cut off. And we must remember that the reason why the Josie at Work program was created, it was to make sure that service delivery is given to the people so that people can actually be participants in the economic development of our city. And so this is a build-up of many frustrations,
of many grievances.
So now, as the Joburg Social Movement, we are a civic organization that has many different NPOs, foundations as well. We have cooperatives that are affiliating, business forums that are affiliating in the network. So we decided that, you know, at some point a reaction is going to come, but before we get to a point where if the people of Joburg respond violently with regards to these issues, how about we come together, bring them together, and have an intervention that is done? Because now, as it stands, the marriage between the DA and the EFF, or whatever they call it, is actually causing more frustration for the people of Greater Johannesburg.
Let's just quickly get a reaction to our guest joining us on the phone line, Denisa. Well, thank you so much, Denisa, for joining us right here on ANN7. Just to get your initial reaction with regards to this call of having Mr. Herman Mashaba removed as the mayor of Johannesburg. What do you make of this? Do you actually welcome this call from the Johannesburg Social Movement?
It is quite, it is a move, that makes a lot of sense to me. Insofar as I'm looking at, the situation, at the moment, Mr. Mashaba is depriving, the people of an opportunity to become entrepreneurs or to grow and flourish. Also to work, amongst their own communities. The bread issue is broad. It is not only going to end up, with these little corners. We have a bigger vision. This should go into the provinces. You should expand. You should go into Africa. The cooperatives have actually a vision to venture into Africa, to form joint ventures under now what our government is looking at to say trade relations should develop, between South Africa and, the African states. Now, we wanted to look at that as an opportunity, to forge, those links.
Well, Mr. Sfiso, just to pose a question to you now.
Ndinisa is my surname, ma'am.
Is it Mr. Ndinisa? Well, thank you.
That's who I am, yes.
Thank you so much for the clarification over there. Now, Mr. Mahlangu, just to pose a question to you. You've heard the grievances thrown out by Mr. Mokhatla and now Mr. Ndinisa with regards to their reasoning behind the calling of the ouster of Herman Mashaba. Are these grounds reasonable enough to actually recall Mr. Mashaba?
Molo Matapelo, happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday to you,
Molo
Sfiso.
It's a difficult one, but let me begin by acknowledging that the young people in this country are stepping up. It's very interesting to read as when they comment, and I've been following the gentlemen and the work that they do. I think the Josie Bread idea was a very good idea for social cohesion, for empowerment, to open bakeries, decreases the price of bread, breaks ranks from white monopoly capital, creates jobs, feeds the poor. I thought that was a very good initiative. And if it is under attack, then it really shows what people think of service delivery or eradicating poverty in the country. But I must begin by saying that Mr. Mashaba has never claimed to service the people or the indigent or the poor. His campaign rhetoric was strictly national. It was like he was campaigning for the presidency of the DA or something like that. He had claimed to remove e-tolls. He had claimed to create jobs in this country. E-tolls still have not gone. It was always out of his jurisdiction, and he knew about that. But he still used it as a campaign trail. So essentially lying to the Johannesburg public to say these are the things he would deliver on. He knew that he couldn't touch e-tolls. But the very things that he can touch seem to be wasted energy, such as the Pick It Up project. And that's where I think it puts the marriage of the DA and the EFF in jeopardy. Because Mr. Malema would go outside of court and say we're not calling for the hacking or the murder of white people for now. And you know that the DA would be the first people to take him on. The Helen Suzman Foundation and Freedom Under Law would take him to the Human Rights Commission, that open a case against him for intimidation, that, they'd go back wild over that. But they didn't do that. Why? Because they know that if they touch Mr. Malema, their marriage will collapse and they'll lose the city of Johannesburg.
Now, Mr. Mahlangu, you're mentioning Pick It Up. Just recently, Mr. Herman Mashaba just announced the reintegration of MOEs back into the city of Johannesburg. Now, do you feel that we haven't really given much of this program to run so that we can see what type of difference it could have on job creation and job employment? Just talk more on this, and I'll also get your reaction from there. But just let's start with Mr. Mahlangu on that.
I think it's a deeper debate. When you take Mr. Mashaba as an excellent businessman and you want to bring him to develop townships, and you're asking yourself, is this man black like me? And it will really turn out that, in fact, he isn't black like you, because he doesn't have the needs that you do. Big Senton House, range of German automobiles does not feature. You don't share the same interests and you don't share the needs. And maybe in this country we need to look at citizenship and vote for politicians who can identify with our needs. That's the first thing we need to look at. But whether Mr. Mashaba will change his rhetoric, I think, Mhlegazi, is going to be a long run for you. It's not going to be easy. He is a DA deployee. He is deployed by the Democratic Alliance to cause shifts in the municipality so that in 2019 that the DA can take over the country. It's a regime change issue. So these menial events, and you think he's destabilizing little projects. Just last week there was an issue, and I sat with you discussing how Mr. Mashaba had fired the CEO for City Power, or he was demanding for this man to resign, and the MMC in the council had to go. That had nothing to do with local issues in the township. He needed the City Power CEO to go so that there can be a DA deployee on City Power, so that the DA has a firm hand, a firm hold on the presser, on the power of Johannesburg. So this is a power struggle. It's a strength shift to move in terms of regime change. You won't hear the DA talk about transformation. You won't hear them talk about the 9-point plan. You don't even hear them talk about the ABSA bailout. And particularly in the last few days, we haven't heard about the DA talk about how ABSA manipulated and coerced the rand manipulation. What you'll see the DA come across is that we're pushing an agenda for regime change. So whilst Mr. Mashaba is out of line, taking him up on this might not present essential roots for small organizations.
Without interrupting you, Mr. Mahlangu, just your reaction to what Mr. Mahlangu over here is saying. Do you agree with the same sentiments as him?
Look, I share similar sentiments, because if you look at the sacking of Councillor Anthony Still as an MMC, yes, he's still in council, but he was sacked as an MMC. You must remember he's one of the most experienced councillors from the DA. The reason why he was actually sacked, because he did not resign. He was sacked because of that same issue of Mashaba trying to get rid of Stello at City Power over something that he was investigated on 3 times, including an investigation by the public protector. And also the question of cutting, the actual cutting of the programs. Because Councillor Still did his investigation, went back to Mashaba, made a recommendation that, you know what, we cannot fire this person because we would not be following due processes. We cannot cut these programs because these programs were actually adopted by council. That is why he was actually sacked.
And let me just try to get a reaction from our guest also on the phone line. Mr. Ndanisa, do you also agree with what Mr. Mahlangu is saying? Do you feel that Mr. Herman Mashaba is actually not really identifying with the needs of the people of Johannesburg, and there just seems to be a bridge of communication and some sort of identification between the people of Johannesburg and that of Herman Mashaba?
Absolutely, ma'am. I do not believe at all, that the mayor, Mr. Mashaba, is a competent person. Firstly, when these bakeries were established, there was a consensus among the people. A research was made to find whether hunger alleviation, or amongst, the reasons why these bakers were established could be sustained, by giving entrepreneurs an opportunity to open up their own bakeries. He has decided, all by himself, possibly with his council, to cancel, this program, which Ndate Pakistan had introduced. Now, that has put people, in great danger now of folding up. There is not going to be no income, in their households. There are going to be a lot of problems in terms of distribution, because this bread project, it opens up, other opportunities for other small entrepreneurs, people who make bread, the quarters, for the community, and all those little kind of things. But besides, the whole issue, is broader. We are looking at taking it into the provinces. As I've said before, we want to take it actually into Africa, because there is another big component to this. It's a mango flour itself. Mango flour is a substitute for sugar and salt, which means people are going to be having, a healthy lifestyle. Now, if we have people who are in the manufacture of this mango, because we have sufficient supply of, this commodity in our country, I personally have gone to Venda, to Zanin, to go and talk to the chiefs there, to find out, how much land they can make available for the production of mangoes, also for the expansion of production as per the expertise from the Philippines.
Well, Mr.
One professor was here.
Well, Mr. Denisa, we'll have to cut you short over there,
Okay,
but I
that's
do
fine,
get your reasoning behind this call. Just before we close, a few seconds, just share more on your closing remarks. What is the Johannesburg Social Movement planning to do to further reiterate their call for Herman Mashaba to step down if it doesn't really reply to this call?
Okay, what's going to happen is that on the 23rd of February, which is next week Thursday, we're going to have a march. First to the Premier's office. We're going to be gathering at Library Gardens at 9 o'clock. First to the Premier's office and to the provincial legislature, just to engage with them on adopting these programs to make them provincial programs, because cutting off these programs is actually detrimental to our city. So that is the first request that we are going to be making, and we're also going to be marching to council to actually request council to actually recall
the answer of Herman Mashaba.
Exactly, and we also want the EFF to look into their conscience and actually be for the people like they were promising the people.
Well, gentlemen, I will have to really cut you short over there, but thank you so much for joining us in studio, Mr. Mahlangu and Mr. Mokhatla, and also a big thank you to our guest joining us on the phone line, Mr. Ndenisa from Josie Bread Corporate. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Well, 8 and 7's Prime has to take a very short break. Stay tuned for your weather report up next.